Hello, and hello, James Nestor, and hello to all of you who are on a path of high performance, of bringing your message to the world, of speaking in your career. At the heart of the skill of speaking, bringing your message on video, online, on stage, at the heart of that is the power of the breath. That is why I had to beg James Nestor for an interview. He's the best-selling author of the book Breath. For those of you that aren't as familiar with James, he's written for Outside Magazine, Scientific American, The Atlantic, The New York Times, and Nestor has appeared in dozens of national television shows, including ABC's Nightline, CBS's Morning News, and on NPR. James lives and breathes in San Francisco. I am so excited to be here with you, James. James, how did you get to be so curious about the breath?
I think it wasn't one thing in particular, but a bunch of things that happened over consecutive years. I had been suffering from various respiratory issues for a long time. I was eating right. I was exercising all the time. I was surfing. I was boxing, martial arts, all that stuff, sleeping 8 hours, and still I was getting sick all the time. And a lot of the sicknesses were in the respiratory tract. So I was wondering why this was. And I heard from some people, it's like, oh, you're just getting old. This is what happens. I didn't really like that answer. So I dug a little deeper and found that so many of us are breathing improperly. And because we're breathing improperly, we're making ourselves much more susceptible to not only respiratory problems, but to anxiety, to high blood pressure, to so many other issues.
It's so true. And my audience knows, and many of my friends know, that for a long time, I've been taping my mouth shut at night. And people ask me, why are you taping your mouth shut at night? And, you're going to be able to answer that question a lot better than I am. All I know is a breathing coach told me to try it because I was mouth breathing. I started to snore. I started to have sleep apnea. And just some gentle little bit of tape over the mouth. It comes right off, has completely solved my issues. I don't snore. I don't have sleep apnea. And I wake up feeling more refreshed and 100 times more energized to go and rock my life and rock my business. And, the women who are watching this episode are curious about living their best life and their highest performance so they can go out and change the world and have an epic life too. So, can you give us a little bit of the science behind why that matters? Why breathing through your nose at night matters?
Well, this sounded completely sketchy to me when I first heard about it a few years ago. And then I went on YouTube, which is a bad idea for any reason. Don't go on YouTube. And I found like all of these terrible instructional videos, people using like 9 pieces of tape, making a little tape goatee. And I thought, this is totally idiotic. But I was working with the chief of rhinology research at Stanford for months and months. I was watching his research. I was investigating it. We were working on a few studies. And I walked down the hall and talked to the doctor of speech language pathology at Stanford. And she had this big roll of blue tape on her desk. I was like, what's that? She's like, oh, I prescribe this to all my patients that they tape their mouth. I said, I've heard about this and it sounds insane. She's like, no. Like, using a piece of duct tape, that's really stupid, unless you're into some like bondage thing, and then good for you. That's amazing. It's consensual, totally fine. But the tape that she recommended was this micropore tape for sensitive skin. It just comes right off. If ever you want it off, you just open your mouth. It comes right off.
Yeah,
And
that's exactly what I use.
So this is not about creating a hermetic seal. Even if you can breathe through the sides of your mouth or cough, like that's all good stuff. This is just to train your mouth to be closed at night. And then the next natural question is, well, why do you want to do this? It turns out that one estimate is that 70% of the population sleeps with an open mouth. When you sleep with an open mouth, you get less oxygen, you can stress your body out, you release 42% more moisture, which is why you're likely waking up throughout the night. Drinking water, you are more apt to snore and have sleep apnea. That sounds crazy, but I've heard this from, at this time, hundreds and hundreds of people who had mild snoring or mild sleep apnea, and some who even had moderate levels of both of these problems. And just closing their mouth at night made an incredible difference. I want to be clear, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a breathing therapist. This isn't going to work for everyone, but it's free. And it worked miracles for me. It worked for you.
Oh my
And
gosh. My life is so different, James. I can't even believe how different my life is. And, you guys, even if you just try the micro pore tape, it comes right off. Even if you just try it a few times to see, it took me a few nights to get used to it, but now I can't live without it. I've got like 10 rolls in my medicine cabinet. So I get an extra roll in my suitcase, so that I don't forget it. You've got some on your desk. So I just want to say, I mean, there's so many things that we could be doing to change the course of our health and how we feel that costs zillions of dollars. And like you said, James, this is something we can take into our own hands and it's free. And I can't believe how much more clear my mind is, James. Like there's something about, can you talk about the balance of oxygen and carbon dioxide in the body? Because somebody was explaining to me that when you breathe through your nose, you've got a more balanced chemistry. So your energy is just more clear.
you know all about this stuff. I'll just pass the mic over to you. No, that's 100% right. And this is why you want to be breathing through your nose. I'm going to invite my guest on right now. Here he is. So you're going to notice here, when you breathe through your nose, you are forcing air through all of these different structures. And these structures heat air, they humidify it, they moisten it, they pressurize it, they help remove pathogens. I could go on and on. There's about 30 different functions that the nose has. So it purifies that air before it reaches the lungs. And this allows the lungs to extract oxygen so much more efficiently. And there's a reason it's harder to breathe through your nose in and out. It takes a while, right? That's good. That allows for more time to extract more oxygen and for that carbon dioxide to rise to its proper level. If you look at the mouth here, you get none of those benefits. That's what it takes to breathe. And a lot of people think by breathing through your mouth, you're getting more oxygen. No, you're doing the opposite. And this is so counterintuitive. It took me months to get my head around. But we have this incredible ornate organ at the front of our faces for a reason. Every other mammal breathes through its nose, I guess, except for like marine mammals, right? They breathe through a blowhole, but the rest of us are breathing through our noses, and 25 to 50% of the population right now are habitual mouth breathers.
One of the things that your book says, James, is that no matter what you eat, no matter how much you exercise, how skinny or young or strong you are, none of it matters if you're not breathing properly. And, it's more than just remembering to breathe. It's breathing properly. Can you give us some tips about that? Because the women I work with are oftentimes ambitious, maybe a little high strung, right? We're good at getting short of breath throughout the day and then crashing by 2 or 3 in the afternoon and then reaching for a cup of coffee. So can you give us some tips? And then I'm just going to encourage you guys to go buy the book because it's amazing. But, can you get us started?
Yeah, so the anatomical problems in the human face are one issue. So through evolution over the past few hundred years, that's all it's taken. Our mouths have grown so small that our teeth grow in crooked now. This is not normal. Our ancestors all had straight teeth, and now the vast majority of us have crooked teeth, smaller mouth, smaller airway, breathing problems. So this is not something that is just mental. However, having said that, you can suffer from poor breathing, even if you have a big, prognathic, beautiful jaw and straight teeth. If you're constantly stressed out, if your posture is not correct, if you are cruising around with your mouth slightly open, all of these things are bad for you, and they contribute to bad habits in breathing. And I guess when you talk about bad habits, you first have to talk about, well, what is a good habit? A good habit is to breathe in line with your metabolic needs. A good habit is to engage your diaphragmatic movement, okay? To breathe softly, to breathe lightly, and to breathe deeply. And throughout the day, if you're in front of your computer, if 4 people are calling you, if you've got 20 emails, and this is just seems to be the modern condition for so many of us, we start to get stressed out. And so what do? We start breathing like this. One researcher claimed that 80% of office workers suffer from something called email apnea, where they hold their breath and then they breathe too much, and they hold their breath and they breathe too much. And all of these signals, what you're doing when you breathe this way is you're sending your brain signals that you're stressed, that you're anxious. And it's this vicious feedback loop. It turns out that 80% of the messages between the brain and body come from the body, not from the brain. So by breathing in a slow, fluid way, you can actually create changes in your brain to allow yourself to think more clearly about stuff. And everyone needs that now more than ever.
Especially with high performers, especially when you're, wanting to be the best at what you do in life, especially when you're a speaker, when you're out there as a leader. And for those of us, again, that are going at Mach speed, it's so important to remember that the answer really lies with the breath. One of the stories that you've shared that's like made an impression on me the most is a story about a young woman with scoliosis who, actually healed herself with breath despite all, sort of Western medicine advice and things like that. Can you tell that story?
Sure. So your posture dictates how you're going to breathe, and how you breathe dictates your posture. And you can see this for yourself right now. If you're hunched over a computer or a laptop, it's really hard to take a long, fluid, deep, sweet breath, right? It's really hard to engage that diaphragm. So you learn how to just breathe into your chest, which is extremely inefficient, which will actually stress you out more. If you really want to be working at your top level with peak energy, peak efficiency, you have to get control of your breathing. You have to. So, in regards to your posture, so this was a lady, this story was so incredible to me. I did not believe it because it sounded impossible. But this lady, about 100 years ago, by the name of Katerina Schroth, she was a teenager living in Dresden, Germany, and she had scoliosis, which was pretty common. And she was given her a brace, given a bed, and said, "Good luck. Here's the rest of your life." They didn't know how to treat people with scoliosis, so she had other thoughts about the human body's potential. And she understood that we had these two huge balloons in our chest, right? And to take a big, deep inhale, you can do that right now. You notice your posture completely changes. She thought, what if I could breathe in certain ways to influence my skeleton, to straighten my spine? Over a few years, she learned how to stretch in certain ways, breathe into one lung, stretch in another way, breathe into the other lung. She straightened her spine and then went out and taught literally thousands of other women for whom hospitals had given up on because they had such extreme scoliosis. The pictures are just devastating. These people could not look up, okay? They could hardly breathe, and hospitals didn't know what to do with them, but she took them. She had a farm, and she would put them through this very rigorous training. And within a few weeks, these people were gaining inches in height. They were able to breathe better, and so many of them recovered. And so for 40 years, she was derided. The medical institutions tried to ban her from doing this. She kept doing what she was doing. At the end of her life, she lived to be 91, by the way.
Oh, bless her heart.
She was given a medal by the German government for her contributions to medicine. So
Wow.
sometimes this stuff takes a while. I know this sounds outrageous. You can see on my website, there's videos, there's pictures, there's x-rays, and they teach this at Johns Hopkins University. So this is not some sort of crazy quackery.
Oh, how brave of her, to go up against Western medicine and to say, no, I know better. And that's the thing. I feel like we've been robbed by this innate intelligence of our bodies. And the breath is that beginning to unlock certain pieces. So I had scoliosis as a kid, and my posture was horrible in college. And my yoga teacher was the one that told me to start breathing all the way up and down my spine. And she'd lead me through visualizations, breathing all the way up and down my spine. And I now live with no pain. My posture's super solid. I mean, some people might tell you that it could be a little better, but you know, I just want to give you each back the keys to the kingdom and the queendom of your life, your body, your health, and to use the breath as an exploration. One of the things that I'm consistently doing, James, for my own personal self care, and one of the things I guide my clients through is to bring the breath into your emotional body, bring the breath into your throat area, your heart area. Especially as speakers, we're constantly ending up with, some constrictions in our throats. And to do breathing exercises before we get on stage and to do emotional releases, so that we can clear that energy and be the channels that we're meant to be for our business. Can you talk a little bit about, like, from your own experience, how the breath transforms our ability to open up our mouth and speak up and speak out and, bring our gifts to the world?
Well, it's the anchor to so many functions in our body. The vast majority of functions in our body, we can go for weeks without eating. We can only go a couple minutes without breathing. And a lot of people confuse compensation for health. So the body will find a way of staying alive. It's so smart and good at doing that. But that doesn't mean you're healthy. So you can get by being totally stressed out, using a whole bunch of coffee throughout the day, using pills at night, and that will get you by, but eventually you're going to break down. And that's what we're seeing in our society. Look at the amount of people who have autoimmune diseases right now. I mean, this is just outrageous. And look at the amount of people who have sleep apnea and snoring and asthma and anxiety and panic. I mean, we've never seen anything like this. So what I find that's so inspiring about breathing is this is something that's free. We carry our breath around with us all day long, all night long. Okay. This isn't asking you to change your diet and go keto for 60 days, even though that might help you, or go paleo, or go vegan, or go. This is something to just change something that you're doing already. So, and you can take advantage of this when you're answering emails, when you're on the phone, when you're watching Netflix at night, when you're exercising, and you can see this change occurring in your body. So many of us have all these wearables, heart rate variability, pulse, even pulse oximeters right now on the Apple Watch. And so you can breathe in different ways and watch what happens after just a few minutes. Watch this coherence that your body enters into. And if you can hit that after a couple of minutes, imagine what's going to happen to you after a couple of weeks, a couple of months. So this is the way to stay in the game. This isn't about breathing and getting a bunch of crystals and moving to Sedona, even though Sedona is amazing. And
We love Sedona and we love
I'd love to be
crystals.
there now. Okay, I'll tell you that. I'd switch places any day. But this is a basic biological function that you can harness and use to its fullest potential. And what I've seen is it has been completely under acknowledged and underused for so long.
100%. One of my girlfriends hooked me up to this, different heart monitor and like wires up on my temples, and you can tell I'm totally naive about the science of this, right? But I had just gotten back in from a run, and she asked me to breathe the way that I used to breathe, and then to breathe how I've been taught to breathe. And like the difference was night and day, like spiky and sharp, the way I used to breathe and the way I've been trained to breathe through my nose using my diaphragm was able to smooth it out considerably, um, and then save me energy throughout the day, right? And it's like we're always up against time. We're always up against our schedules. We're always up against our calendars, and we think there's never enough. And, what I tell my clients to do is to remember that time is not linear and that you're in charge of your own capacity, your own efficiency. And, who wants to work 8 hours when you could actually get 5 hours of work done by using proper breath? And so, is there any other guidance you can give us aside from just use use the diaphragm up and down, nice deep long breaths? The guidance that you give in your book is really the best guidance. Definitely go and buy the book, you guys. It's for sale on Amazon. It's also for sale on James's website. James, I'll have you give your website. But is there any other guidance that you can give us?
Sure. So when I was first starting out, I was reading all these yoga books and pranayama books, and there's 400 different breathing methods, and they all have these crazy names, and you're just like, where do I start? But what I learned is so many of these are just variations on the same theme. And here's the theme. This is all you really need. Buy the book anyway, of course. But this is all you need to know is you need to become aware of your breath. Okay, just the same way that you need to become aware of what you're eating. Okay. You need to breathe through your nose. You need to do this all the time. If you can't, you need to find a way of opening it. So it's going to be really hard for you to remain healthy while mouth breathing. That's That's just the reality, okay? And the science is very clear on that. You need to breathe slowly and you need to breathe less. So I know you're thinking, less, what are you talking about? Less, I'm not going to have enough oxygen. No, by breathing slowly, by breathing lightly and deeply, you get more oxygen. And here's the great thing, you get more for doing less, which is why when you breathe slowly, you notice your heart rate going down. You can check your blood pressure before and after. Your blood pressure goes down. Your body is saying, oh my God, thank you. I can now rest and restore myself, because otherwise we just run our bodies till they reach a breaking point. Then we completely collapse. And that is the way it's done in the West here, which, is not a very good philosophy. It's not a very
What? You don't think it's good to just go until we completely crash and fall apart?
maybe that's good. But I've seen a lot of people who had wished they had done it another way. If you really want to stay in the game, and if you want to stay in the game for a long amount of time, yeah, you can drink coffee, a ton of coffee every day, take drugs, whatever to stay in the game, but you're going to have to
Stimulants,
pay that
caffeine.
back at some time.
Yeah.
So if you want to stay in the game for a long time and be operating at peak performance, you have to take control of your breathing. It's such a simple thing, and yet it's so underused.
Oh my gosh, I can't even begin to tell you how much I agree with you and just how glad I am that you came on to share this with my community, because when we have a big message for the world, we've got to get this stuff under control. It's the simplest, it's the most affordable hack. It's like a no-brainer in my mind. I had to teach myself to stop and slow down in the middle of being on stage, in the middle of being on a conference call, and close my mouth and swallow, because I wasn't wired that way. I wasn't physiologically wired that way. But I can continue to lead and take those breaks. And, a few months ago, I did a 5-hour live stream where I was taking little breaks all the way through. I had guest experts on. I breathed properly. And at the end of the live stream, we had made about $500,000 because we had built that kind of a relationship with our audience. And I was, filled up and renewed and rejuvenated all the way through. And at the end of it, I took a walk with a friend, and she was teasing me for the fact that after a 5-hour live stream, I wanted to take a walk and not a nap. And I think it has everything to do with learning how to breathe and slow down. And so for somebody who talks a lot and for somebody who hasn't ever learned this, James, what sort of last piece of advice would you give to really be able to remember throughout the day?
I think to just think about how your body works. So we can't take conscious control by just thinking about it, our nervous system or our heart rate or our liver function or digestion, right? But when we take control of our breathing, we're able to tap into all of those things. So we can influence how our body functions down to the cell level, right? Even smaller than that, the subatomic level of electrons, by breathing in different ways. You can change how circulation works in your body. So this is a really ground up way of viewing your body and viewing its capacities, and using this and focusing it on your potential. The last thing I'll just repeat again is, people can sell different breathing plastic doodads or whatever. Some of those work great, but I found that the best technology we have is what's here, is our lungs, it's our lips, it's our throats, it's our brains, and we can use our bodies to do some incredible things, and breathing is definitely a part of that.
Thank you so much. And let everybody know what your website is.
I know these claims seem completely wacko, so my publisher allowed me to put the entire bibliography for free on my website. So there's something like 400 or 500 scientific references there with videos and all that stuff. It is at Mr. James Nestor. That's an mrjamesnestor.com. You can put a /breath there to find. And also there's breathing techniques by experts in the field from Johns Hopkins, and Q&As with professors at Harvard. So this stuff is real, and it's been real for a long time. And it's great to see the public starting to acknowledge it, and to learn this science that exists within all of us.
James, thank you so much for being brave enough and courageous enough and bold enough to step out and to bring this um, essential knowledge, to people that need it, to those of us that have just not been taught how to breathe. Thank you so much to all of you, every single one of you who's out there sharing your message and your gifts with the world. We will put links to James's website. His website, by the way, is full of amazing resources, to his book and to the mouth tape that I use here in the comments and in the show notes. And James, I can't wait to come up to San Francisco and hang out with you sometime. And thank you for being just a solid and wise and incredible soul on the planet.
Well, thanks a lot for having me. Maybe we'll do a little lip tape walk sometime. We'll just see what happens.
I look forward to it. Bye.
Bye-bye.
And if you got value from this episode, I invite you to hit the subscribe button so that we can get you weekly business trainings in your inbox to help you grow your impact and your income the women's way. Head over into the Women Rocking Business Sisterhood Facebook group and introduce yourself there, because women go so much further when we go together. Just click the button to subscribe and we will see you on the other side.